Hi friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Hannah Grace. I'm an illustrator, printmaker, and librarian. So in today's video, I'm just going to kind of give some tips and tricks for new artists or new artists that are trying to transition into vending events. And how do you reach out, how do you promote yourself, and what does that look like? So for me, I went to a four-year college, and that kind of was like my saving grace in a way, where I had this opportunity of like, oh, I can vend, like I can sell my art. I had the resources, which was also very nice. So I had the resources and I had the environment in which I could do that. So the school I went to, it's Columbus College of Art. Can't talk. Columbus College of Art and Design. So it's an art school, essentially. I went there for interior and architecture design. Very, very different from what I do now. But along with my studies, I was also doing visual art and digital art, which was easy for me to do. It's something that I was very passionate about and I could fill in my time. So as I was doing that, I heard that they do vending events. So they had a winter market and a spring market. So what you did essentially was you emailed like your body of work, essentially, like a mini portfolio of what you would be selling, your name, if you have a business, what you want to call your business. If not, that's fine. So your name, portfolio is usually 1 to 5 images just to represent your work. And this is kind of standard, I would say, for most places, so just keep in mind, you don't want to do 30 images. They're not gonna look at that many images. You want to do it like short and sweet. So just think of, I would say for me, kind of getting ahead of myself, but just think of like what represents your art, but also what represents the different things you would be selling from a marketing standpoint. So I'm a printmaker and an illustrator. So with that, I also make prints of digital art, my fine art, but then I also make printmaking prints. I also do t-shirts and tote bags, so those are two different forms of things. And then also, I'm trying to think what else, stickers. Stickers are an amazing thing to do. They're very easy, they're also very affordable, and they sell out very, very fast. Like everyone loves stickers. So, excuse me. So pretty much showing your body of work. So your name, portfolio, very short, and then just kind of like a small description of what you would be selling, so you represent that. And then it depends on the place, but they're gonna ask, what is your range of pricing? So for mine, it was $2, $4 for stickers, and then it would go all the way up to sometimes $150 for original drawings. But I also had mid-range pieces, which is good to have. So from that, I emailed the people that were going through it, like the directors, and they would single out and go through different artists that they want to show in this. So you're applying. So it's like you're kind of applying to a job, essentially, to fit what would work best for their market. However, all of those were students, so we had the privilege and opportunity to have like a huge body of like a community and a body of students, and it was not only like current students, but it was also alumni. So it was in a 3-floor building, and there was about, I think, 150 or so. So it was like a big day. So it would definitely be successful, and I would say my first time it was a huge learning curve. So through there I just kind of like learned from everyone. Since then I've done, I want to say about like 8 vending events or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe 10. So I did 3 of those in Columbus, and then back home I will say I don't love it, but Instagram and Facebook have been very useful, especially Facebook. But if you really want to reach out to like ask yourself like, where do I want to sell? How far am I willing to drive? That's a really good question to ask, because if I live in like a certain place and there's a big city like an hour away, that's like really good. Like that's not bad. It's far, but I would be willing to do the drive because since the city is more populated, and you gotta think if it's more like artsy, then that would work really well too. So you also want to think about, where do I want to sell? How far will it be? And you also want to think about your audience. So I know there's like a couple of different things in my area where there's like a holiday market, and then there's also like a summer market, and I usually do those. So it's kind of like a catch-all, if that makes sense. But since I'm mainly a handmade artist, it kind of can be applied to most things. I just think of different events where it's like a mom and pop shop and they just want like candles and bath works and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, that wouldn't work for me. So just asking yourself, what environment would I do best in? There's a different event where it's like the fairies something market, which I've considered. So just thinking of the audience that I would sell best to. I also know a couple of different artists. I will link them up here. But they have done different events where they're bigger and larger and you kind of have more of a well-known name. I'm sure you've heard of them. It's like the Oddities and Curiosities markets. So those are like in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, maybe Chicago, but they have like a whole list. But the applying process is pretty much the same. So just kind of, again, your name, portfolio, email, phone number, what are you going to be selling, very, very brief, price range, and so yeah, so you kind of just wait to be accepted, and the more you do it, like the more you'll understand what to do. So really, truly don't just get upset or like beat yourself up, because it's trial and error. You really have to, like, unfortunately fail in the beginning to know what doesn't work. I would say my first 2 markets, when I did get accepted, it was difficult because I was like looking at different people and I was like, wow, like they're so good at what they do and they're making a lot of money, but you know, they're enjoying what they're doing. And I'm like, how can I do that? So I just picked different things that I saw, where it's like having a really nice tablecloth, having different things that are elevated on your booth. So keeping in mind kind of that, like, what will my booth look like? But again, it's all trial and error. It comes with learning. And I think in general with like vending and selling, it's all about what you want to get out of it, and then also what do you want to show to your like peers. I think that's really important. But yeah, so, and a couple of other tips that I think people don't really consider is, how do I like conserve my energy as an artist? So I'm very much like kind of an introvert, but on these days I have to become an extrovert. You're selling yourself, literally. You're selling little pieces of your soul, which is your artwork. So it's good to keep in mind, like, just kind of conserving your energy like the day before, and even coming up with like prompts in your head. So if people come up to you, just keep in mind, like, ask questions like, hey, how are you doing? Like, don't intimidate them to be like, so you want my art? It's right there, you know? You don't want to intimidate them, and you don't want to like shove in their face like, I really need you to buy my art. Just kind of start a conversation. So what I would do typically is just like, hey, how's it going? Are you shopping for a friend or is it for yourself? That's still kind of like talking about shopping, but I would also ask them, like, have you ever heard of printmaking? So this is what I do. Printmaking essentially is just carving into either linoleum, wood, there's different surfaces, and through that you make prints, and there's different types of things. So that's a huge conversation. So not only do they get to like witness you talking about it, witnessing your art, but then they get to learn something about the process, and I feel like that creates a connection. So not only are you making connections through people, you're also educating people about what you do. And so that can be for a lot of things, like crocheting. Think about the history of crocheting. Where did you start with that? What does that mean to you? Okay, we are back. Sorry. I was filming and then my battery died. I forget where we were. So just like making connections with people, and just be yourself, like be human. I think honestly it kind of helps, and this is kind of in my experience, just being human, joking about it, and just telling them about your art, who you are. And people love that. Like, they really connect when you're more yourself and not like putting on this fake persona of who could I be to please this other person, you know. I wouldn't connect with someone if they weren't being themselves or they were trying to sell me something. It just seems like too, like, kind of fake, you know? I don't really like that. So the next portion would be, where do I get my supplies for vending? And that's a good question. I would say for me, majority of where I get my things is the places you wouldn't really expect. Oh, I wish I had my water. Those are my dogs, if you can hear them.